When I work with companies, we define a cross-functional core team during the assessment and when we build out optimized customer onboarding, enablement, engagement, and success programs. When we build those teams, I say that they need to be less than 10 people. And I encourage you to look at engaging less than 10 people when you are defining committees, councils, and teams. What happens is that there's a sweet spot of around 5 to 9 members of a team where people are really engaged and accountable. I find you need at least a handful to get different levels of expertise, to get that cross-functional engagement. But in order for teams to be agile and productive, then they need to be in that sweet spot of around 5 to 9. It really increases the level of individual contribution. When there's less than 10 people, there's nowhere to hide. So people are more accountable and you really get stuff done. What I find when there are teams with more than 10 people, people tend to go into observer mode. So they kind of sit back in meetings and let other people get involved. In fact, this is called the Ringelmann effect. And this means that there's an actual inverse relationship that exists between the size of a group and the magnitude of that group member's individual contribution to the completion of a task. So the larger the group is, the less the individual members are actually going to be impacting the group. Now, to be honest, I recently let this rule of less than 10 people on the core team. I let that rule slide when I was working with a large company, a large mature company. And when we were defining the core team, the sponsor really insisted that we include more people to have their input and their engagement. And it sounded really good at the time, but one, it really dragged out the assessment. We ended up with over 25 people being interviewed, and then over 25 people being included in an on-site strategic workshop. And everyone was great individually, but as a team, we got that, started becoming more passive. And while we stepped away from that strategic workshop with a lot of great ideas, initiatives, and plans, all those folks kind of drifted off into their separate teams' priorities and projects. So we ended up not really driving the impact we could have. And I won't let that happen again. I'm really going to keep to that rule of 10 or less. So, not everyone needs to be involved in the team. You can always build out a RACI. So you're going to have people who are accountable and responsible, but there can be lots of others who are consulted and informed. The more people you have in every meeting, the more expensive every single meeting is costing you. So you want to be really mindful of that. If you just look at the hourly wage of everybody included in a meeting, like every time you have a meeting, it might be costing you hundreds or thousands of dollars. This rule of 10 or less applies to meeting with your customers as well. So when you're having those handoff meetings and those kickoff meetings and QBRs and EBRs, the more people you involve, well, one, that's going to increase the cost for your customers. And two, that's going to really decrease the actual productivity, the impact, and the activity of those teams. To dive deeper, read my article From Information to Transformation, and let's talk, because I can help you and your organization and your customers get to the next level as quickly as possible.